Hi, and welcome to Silent No Longer. I'm Misha, and I'm truly grateful you're here. This podcast is a safe, judgment free space for healing, hope, and conversation for anyone who has lived through toxic or abusive relationships. I know what it feels like to be trapped, unheard, and unseen. I've walked through years of toxicity, financial hardship, and spiritual battles, but through faith, God restored my strength, and I found freedom. Now, my purpose is to help others discover the same healing and breakthrough. On this podcast, we'll share stories of resiliency, transformation, and faith. I'll open up about my own journey and we'll hear from guests who have walked similar paths and come out stronger. My goal is to remind you that you are not alone, that healing is possible, and that your past does not define your destiny. If what you hear resonates with you, you can dive deeper into my story in my book, Behind Closed Doors. And for those ready to take the next step in their healing, you can schedule a free clarity call with me if you're ready to break chains, release bondages, overcome limited beliefs, and build confidence and self worth. Thank you for joining me today. It's an honor to be part of your journey, and I can't wait to walk with you through this season of healing, hope, and breakthrough. Welcome to Silent No Longer, where your past is a chapter and not the whole book. And today on the show, we have Rafi Bilek, a marriage counselor and an author. Rafi is here to talk about one of the most important aspects of any relationship, communication. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here today. I grew up around, well, in toxic environment, and so I never talked. That was my way of just
Dealing with it, yeah.
yes, growing up, and then I got in a 12-year relationship with my kids' dad, which was horrible, no communication. And then I got married after that. We were married for 9 years and we never talked to one another. We weren't even in the same room together. So then after my divorce, I made a friend and he talked all the time. And it was so weird. I he would always tell me, "You can talk, you know." And I didn't know what to do because I've never spoke to anyone before. And I told him that I was like, You don't understand. I've never communicated before in my life. This is new to me. You're gonna have to give me some grace on this." I think I'm doing a lot better. I'm a lot more open, but I've done a lot of healing too.
Great.
I'm just kind of straightforward person. If I want to know something, I'm just gonna ask you.
Hence
But
silent no longer.
yeah, yeah, that's really good. That's very true though. Yeah. But yeah, so if you just wanna just talk about what healthy communication is and just how somebody coming from, maybe a toxic relationship or somebody who's never had parents or anybody really talk to them, like, what does healthy communication look like?
Well, I guess let's start just at the bottom. If there is something on your mind, you should feel comfortable telling the person you're in a relationship with. If you feel like, oh, it wouldn't be okay to say this, we have a problem. Like you should be okay to say things. That doesn't mean that you can yell and put people down. That's not what we're talking about. But there's something that I
Mhm.
want you to know, something that we need to share. I shouldn't be afraid to tell you my preferences or my needs or how I'm feeling about something. I should be able to tell you those things. To do that, of course, I need to know what's going on inside myself, and people who have been silenced often learn not to even pay attention to that. So it
Yeah.
could be for people going through that healing process, you have to get a sense of what am I feeling right now? Like, oh, you know what? I'm kind of angry. That would be good to
Yeah.
know.
I had to actually do that. I had, just a few months ago, I went through that. I was having all these feelings that I've never felt before because I've always suppressed everything. And I was like, why am I having this feeling? I took everything out and just concentrated on the actual feeling. Like, why was I having it? Where was it coming from? Where is it stemming from? Did a lot of crying and figured
That's
out
pretty
where it was
cool.
all coming from. But yeah,
Great.
I
Yeah.
did a lot of healing doing that, just focusing on the emotion and where it was coming from.
Yeah. I mean, communication assumes you have something to communicate. If you have shut yourself down to the point where you don't recognize what you're feeling, then there's not a lot to say.
Hmm.
Like you've been through and are, sort of breaking out of, which is great.
Yeah. So, what is one common misconception people have about communicating effectively?
I think a lot of people think we got to run right into it. It's the opposite. If I have something I'm feeling, you must know about it right now. And
Mhm.
maybe not. If I'm angry at you, I should be able to say it, but don't mean I have to say it. And certainly not right now. In fact,
Mhm.
if I'm angry at you, that's the worst time for me to tell you that because it's going to come out not so good. So
Yeah.
people are feeling like, no, we have to deal with things right away. I think that's not quite correct. You will deal with things much better if you wait a day and sleep on it and come back like, you know what, that actually wasn't such a big deal. That might happen. Or maybe it was a big deal, but then you'll be in a better position to talk about it effectively.
Yeah. I've started doing that because before I would just blow up because I was just so angry anyway, and then,
How'd
like,
that
one
work for
little
you?
didn't. I'm sure that was probably a lot of issues in relationships, like, especially talking with like, everybody's just so angry, so every little tiny emotion comes out, and it's just bad on, like, every part. But I have started, like, taking a day and processing, trying to figure out exactly what I wanna say to the person, and then when I communicate with them, take my time and make sure that they're understanding me correctly.
That's
And
great.
before, I didn't think that taking your time in communication was a good thing, like, you gotta hurry up and get it out, so
Yeah, no, I mean, people are complex and subtle, and just trying to, let it all out at once is not really going to be optimal. I teach people to sort of chunk it down. Like, I have a lot of things going on in my mind. I'll give you like three sentences at once, and just make sure you
mm,
got that. And once you get that, then I can go into the next three sentences. But if I talk for like 18 minutes, and then I go, "Hey, did you get that?" You probably didn't.
yeah. Yeah, that's very true. What is the biggest barriers to good communication in relationships?
What's the biggest barrier? Um,
Mhm.
I think that people just don't know what it takes to make it work. People are trying to get their point across and say what they need to say without having any sense of how that's going to go down. So, if I am trying to tell you what I think about whatever issue, problem, or happening, and you're trying to tell me what you think, we're just going to butt heads over and over again. And I think that having a structure where we understand how we're going to do this helps, which is, of course, what I wrote this whole book about. And that's what I teach people is how do we have a conversation where we're going to both hear each other? Because just running full force, like you said, I'll just get it out there. I'll just put it out there. That tends not to land so well.
And how do you handle situations where someone just isn't listening?
Well, I guess it depends. Why aren't they listening? Maybe they're busy and they're preoccupied. I have definitely had times where my wife has come and started talking to me, and I've been like looking like I'm paying attention, but like after 10 seconds, I'll be like, oh, you know what? I realize I don't have the headspace. I was in the middle of working on something. We can't talk right now. So that's certainly reasonable. Just because I'm ready to talk doesn't mean you're ready to listen. So
Yeah.
you got to make sure that we're both on the same page there. But there are other reasons. Maybe you don't want to listen to me. Maybe you're a jerk, in which case we have some other work to do. So if someone doesn't want to listen, we have to understand why. There are times where we have a good relationship and you're not a jerk, but you're so worked up you can't hear me, right? Let's say we're both angry because there's no milk in the morning for coffee, and now nobody has coffee, and I think you were supposed to get the milk, you think I was supposed to get the milk. We're both mad at each other. Ain't nobody listening at that moment. At that moment, we should just both go out to Starbucks, get some coffee. It'll be better. Like, that's not the time to talk. Again, you got to find the right time. So there's a lot of reasons why people don't listen. Um, in a relationship where people generally want to be kind to each other and listen, so the reasons are usually pretty harmless and just a matter of timing and structure.
How do you communicate difficult messages without causing conflict?
Ah, great, right?
Yeah.
A lot of things we have to say are difficult. I think the key there is for me to tell you what's going on for me, and not, for me, and not to tell you about you. If I talk to you about you, I'm inviting you to argue with me. If I tell you about me, I'm inviting you to care about me. Meaning, if I say you're lazy and you're forgetful and you're inconsiderate, you didn't get the coffee, the milk, so you will instantly become defensive. And now we're going to argue. You're going to say, well, it's me, it was you, it's not my fault, etc., etc. If I tell you what I'm going through, I'm really frustrated. I don't have coffee today. I got the big meeting and I'm stressed and I'm exhausted. I'm really frustrated. So you can hear that. If I
Yeah.
have something difficult to tell you, I have to tell you what's difficult for me and what my experience is. And you have to understand that you are not on the hook for anything. You do not have to explain why you did it or didn't. You don't have to accept guilt. You don't have to apologize. All you have to do is listen and care about what I'm going through, and then we can make it through. So, again, if we have certain premises set up, then talking about difficult things becomes a little less difficult.
Yeah, that's really good. What's your advice for communication under stress or high pressure situations?
Oh, don't. Oh, don't. I mean, stress and high pressure situations. Okay, like I gotta be like, okay, hey, get the shoes on the baby. We gotta get to the airport. That's not communication. That's we gotta get out
Yeah.
of here, right? But that would not be the time to talk about how I don't like the way that we're doing our parenting. On the way to the airport, that's not the time. High pressure, high stress situations. You do the best you can to be kind and considerate. You don't start yelling. You manage your own reactions. You keep yourself regulated. There's a lot of internal work to be done there. That is not a time for communication. You will not get good conversations or make change in your relationship or get empathy at those times. You get to the
Right.
airport on time. Once you're on the plane and you're stuck on the plane for 5 hours and there's nowhere to go, nothing to do, that might be a time to talk. But even then, maybe it's more calming down time. And that's okay. High pressure, high stress situations, not equals communication.
So no serious talk. I always say no serious talk at 8 o'clock at night either.
100%. People think that like this is the best time, right? We're mad at each other now. Let's bust our way through it. That is a terrible approach. You're saying this because you know you've been there. What happens is now 2 in the morning and you're still angry and now you're tired on
Yeah.
top of it. So
Mhm.
that's not the way to go. You can wait. It's hard, but you can do it, and it turns out much better. What made you interested in this subject? Why did you want to talk about communication?
I wanted to talk to have better communication in a relationship when I get into another relationship. I think I've gotten better at it. All my old relationships was just fighting and nitpicking to get a fight,
Right.
or you try to have like a normal conversation and they just didn't want to because it didn't interest them or something, you know?
Well, look, you're talking about two different things. Somebody who's not interested in what you have to say is not really in a relationship with you, or it's a very
Mm.
poor quality relationship. If if somebody cares about you, then if you want to talk to them about the latest, bird watching magazine that you got, because that's your thing, and if it's your thing, we have something different to talk about, by the way. But let's say that's your thing, then they should hear that out, right? That doesn't mean that they become your bird watching partner forever, but like if it's interesting to you, then I'll hear about it. Love means if it's important to you, then it's important to me. If you want to talk about bird watching, maybe I can't spend hours doing it, but I'll take an interest in that. I'm excited for you. So if you want
Mhm.
to talk about something and your partner's not interested, something's wrong there to begin with. Now, maybe it's a decent relationship, but we just have to help them understand, like, I'd like you to be more interested in me. So now we're on to the other type of communication where it's like, hey, let's talk about something important as opposed to just bird watching. Right. I don't, I'd like you to, I want to come home and talk about bird watching. I'd like you to pay attention. So now what's going on for me? I want to tell you what I am feeling, what's going on inside me. If I come to you and I say, you need to pay more attention to my bird watching magazines, again, you will become defensive because I'm talking
Yeah.
about. But if I come and I say, hey, Misha, can we talk about something? I just want you to hear me out. What's going on for me? I'm really excited about bird watching, like really excited about bird watching if there are such people, you can imagine. And whenever I bring it up, you don't seem that interested, and that's okay. You don't have to be like the world's bird watching expert, but I kind of wish that you took a little more interest in what was important to me, and I just feel a little bit on my own and disconnected when I'm talking about bird watching, and you just kind of roll your eyes. And I just wish you could hear me out a bit more. So here I am telling you what's going on inside me and what's important to me and how I feel and what I wish for. You can hear that. You don't have to change right now. You might not be able to tolerate bird watching. Heck, who could? But maybe you could say, you know what, I hear how that is for you. I'm not sure that I could do that, but like that must be really awful for you. Like you want to feel connected. So even if we disagree, even if we don't have a good solution, at least we're connected through the communication. Whatever the problem is, we're working on it. We're a team. We're working together. That is what communication in a relationship does for us. It doesn't mean that every problem has a solution. The goal of communication is not to solve problems. That's one nice feature of it. If there's an issue that we need to solve, we can do that. But there may not be a solution to some things, right? You
Mhm.
want to go to Japan for a vacation, and I want to go to France. Like the solution is not we'll find somewhere in the middle, and that's gonna be like Turkey or something. That's the compromise, right? That's not how we. It's either one or the other sometimes, or maybe neither. I had a couple that they couldn't agree whether they should have another kid or not. Like you can't have half a kid. There's no option like that. And it's not an easy solution to come to. It's not like flip a coin. Yes, or like that's a huge life decision. It is a
Yeah.
huge life. Okay, but at least we were able to talk about it. I helped them talk about it in a way that left them feeling connected. And that's what we're aiming for. That's what I do with people. That's what the whole book that I wrote is about, is how do we talk about things that we don't agree on or that are painful or that are difficult and still feel like we're in a relationship. That's gold.
Yeah. So, what would be your number one advice of somebody who's in a bad relationship, who can't get out or isn't ready to get out to have or feel like they have better communication or safe communication in the relationship?
I mean, it depends what you mean by a bad relationship. If you say a bad relationship they can't get out of, like they don't like it here, but they have no money and nowhere to go, we have a different issue than improving communication.
Mhm.
Right? A bad relationship means abusive. Um,
Right.
right? Then communication is not what we need. If a bad relationship is we're not connecting, we're fighting too much, etc. So great, we can improve upon that. Best advice is buy the book. No, okay, no, that's one option. But yeah, you need some help on making it better, and that's normal. Most couples need help. That doesn't mean most couples get it, but I don't know anybody who walked into marriage feeling like they were or actually being ready to handle it. You sort of learn on the job. And so it helps a lot of people, whether to go, go for counseling or coaching, talk to a mentor, buy a book. I would say there's a lot of stuff on the internet. The problem is there's a lot of stupid stuff on the internet. So go to
Mhm.
Instagram for relationship advice. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But getting educated on how to do it. It's not supernatural. It's not supernatural. It's not very natural to do communication well. It becomes natural. You can learn how to do it. But it's not like just knowing how to talk, which we all do
Mhm.
well, is the same thing as getting across what you need to and connecting through that communication. So I think people should educate themselves, work on it, get guidance. That's what I do for a living. Is I help people connect, communicate over the difficult things, and make life better. And let me tell you, once you're connected in a relationship, life is a lot better. The quality
Yeah.
of our lives depends a whole lot on the quality of our relationships.
Yeah. Would you say that communication is the biggest barrier in relationships or, like, in a non-toxic relationship, I guess I
Okay,
should
great.
say?
Let's say, I mean, there's so many relationships out there where people are just not
Yeah. I
employing.
thought
And
about that after I said that. I was like, "Let me
yeah,
rephrase
yeah, okay.
that."
So, you know, there's a lot that goes into a relationship. I would say that communication maybe is not the biggest barrier, but it's the biggest channel to things getting better. Because whatever the problems are, whether it is major disagreements on major things like religion, or a difficult financial situation, or whatever it is, communication can help us fix those things and get on the same page, right? So maybe we have strongly different political, religious beliefs, whatever it is, but we can remain connected through that. Now, again, for some people, it may not be a good place to be in the relationship. I worked with a couple once where she wanted to travel the world and be a business person, and he wanted to be at home and have a lot of kids. And they really loved each other. And we were
Mhm.
able to help them communicate about it and talk about it and, connect through it and decide like, okay, this life isn't going to work for us. And they split, which is fine because they simply did not want to live the same life,
Yeah.
and they were nice. It was a fine relationship. But again, that is a situation where the communication helped us reach a conclusion. Not always does it do that. Not always is communication about getting to a solution. But if whatever problems there are, communication will help you be in a happy relationship, even if you don't have solutions.
Okay. I like that.
Me too. Works wonders. Let me tell you, I practice everything I preach.
Is there any other pointers or anything you wanna give the
I
audience?
can talk about this for days and days and days. This
Go
is
for
my
it,
thing.
man.
It'll be the world's longest podcast episode, right? 38 hours and running. If people are listening and wanting to get better at their connection, let's break down the basic structure and talk about how this looks. And again, I direct you to any number of resources out there. It happens that my book is the best one, but there's lots of resources, so it's fine. Um, we talked about how I'm going to talk about me, not talk about you, right? When we start a conversation, we understand we are not going to try to solve this problem. This is important. We always run into the problem like there's no milk, we got to get milk. Yes, in that moment, maybe that's the issue. That's actually a bad example because in that moment we just talked about milk, and then later it's a different conversation. But let's say we're trying to figure out where to go for vacation. The first thing we have to do is not discuss, okay, Japan versus France. The first thing we have to do is talk about how we feel about each option and why this is important. Why do I want France and why do I not want Japan? Okay, I don't know that people have very strong feelings about their vacation destinations, but let's take something closer to home. Where are you going for the holidays, right? When we're recording this, it's slightly before the holidays. I don't know when this gets posted out there, but we go to my parents, we go to your parents. A lot of feelings around that. Why is it important? Why do I hate your parents? Why do you want to go to whatever it is? If we come into this trying to solve the problem, it's a lot of friction. If we come in and we say, look, I'm not going to solve this problem right now, because the truth is, you can't solve a problem you don't understand. So let's understand the problem first. I mean, it's so obvious, but we do it anyways. We just try to run in to solve the problem. But what is the problem? The problem is not where we're going for the holidays. The problem is, I feel very uncomfortable around your racist Uncle Frank, and you have a bad relationship with my mother, and the drive is very hard. And like, there's all kinds of things going on there, and there's a lot of really important feelings to bring out, like what's going on for us. So if we start a conversation just talking about like what is the issue, and if you understand me and I understand you, then a solution becomes much easier to find. So the first conversation we have is just exploring the problem. We're going to resolve it later. It's two separate conversations. When we talk about this, I'm going to talk and you're going to listen, and then we'll switch. If we both think we're talking at the same time, that will not go well because nobody's listening.
Right.
Right. So we're breaking this down into various components. Like I said, right? First, we're having an exploration, not a resolution conversation. Next thing is one of us talks, one of us listens, and we switch off. Um, and I'm talking about me. I'm not talking about you. Right. So all these principles will help us get to a conversation that works much better. And there's a lot of nuts and bolts to it. Again, it's not like you need a master's degree just to have a conversation with your spouse or your partner. Um, but getting some basic ideas, like I said, I mean, it makes so much sense when you think about it. Like, how can you solve a problem you don't understand? And yet we do that all the time. We run in trying to solve
Mhm.
a problem and make it go away because we don't like having a problem. But I got news for you. You're going to have lots of problems in your life. All of you out there, you're going to have lots of problems in your life and they'll keep coming and they won't stop coming. I'm thinking of Smash Mouth now. I don't know if anybody else is. Okay. Um, some problems will have solutions and some problems will not. But if you're talking about it in a way that feels connecting, you'll have a good relationship anyways. Last pointer, buy the book, right? The book. I didn't even give you a title yet. The couples communication handbook, the skills you never learned for the marriage you always wanted. If you go to thecommunicationbook.com, if I haven't convinced you already that it's worth getting and reading and learning, you can get the first two chapters there for free just to test it out. There's a PDF, there's an audiobook. If you like listening to me speak, there's 7 hours and 29 minutes of me doing that on the audiobook. And I put blog posts and Instagram and emails and things, just trying to give people pointers and tips and help people out. Again, I think the main thing is get a structure first, get an understanding. Read the book or call me up and we'll work through it together. And let's get people just knowing how to have these conversations, and then we go for it. And it takes practice, and it's not easy. It's a skill like any other. But at least knowing what to do, like, if you want to play a sport, you don't run out onto the field and start swinging your bat or racket or whatever. You learn a little bit first. You practice. You have a coach who tells you how to do it better. You fail. You try again. Yep, that's normal for anything.
It's very true. And give yourself grace. It's not something that you're gonna be perfect at right away.
I'm not perfect at it. I still mess things up. Me and my wife still get into snits sometimes. We're not yelling and screaming at each other, but it doesn't go perfect, but it doesn't have to. We
Mm,
have ways of repairing. A good relationship is not one in which you make few mistakes. A good relationship is one in which you make lots of repairs.
I like that.
I didn't come up with it. No, I wish I could take credit for it. I did write the book, but there's a couple, there's plenty of lines in there like this one that I didn't make up myself. It's a good one though, right? It makes
Yeah,
one.
it is. I like it.
Uh, I'll give you one more piece from the book, which is
Okay.
helpful in terms of how to do the listening part. Right? I told you when I'm speaking, I'm going to talk about me. When you're listening, you are not trying to rebut me. You are not trying to solve the problem. There's all kinds of things that people try to do to make the problem not be there, which are unhelpful. We have to sit with the problem a little bit. So there's only four things you're going to do when you're listening, and they're easy to remember because the acronym is LOVE, LOVE. So clever, right? That one is mine. That
Mhm.
one is mine. L is listening. O is reflecting in your own words. V is validate, and E is empathize. That's all you're doing. If you're doing anything else as the listener, you're going to be in the wrong track. It's going to turn into a fight. When you listen, it means you listen to me and you don't try to think of your response and you're not looking at your phone and you're not working on something else. You're listening and you're just trying to hear what I say and understand what I say. And then you reflect it back in your own words. You say, okay, so what you're saying is that you really don't want to go to the holiday meal with my family because you're worried about it turning into a big fight. Whatever it is, like you just reflect back because you want to make sure you got it right. And you want to make sure that I know you get it right. If I don't
Mhm.
think that you understood what I'm saying, I feel unsettled. I don't feel relaxed. I don't feel okay with this conversation. I want to know you understand my problem. And then you validate, which means, oh, I get that. That makes sense. Right. If you don't understand why I don't want to go to your family, then we're not going to get anywhere. If you don't have
Yeah.
to agree with it, you don't have to like it, you don't have to say, okay, that's what we'll do. You just have to understand that I am worried about your racist Uncle Frank. And if you can understand that, then we're in a better place. And then you empathize with just, yeah, that's so stressful. I'm so sorry you feel that way. If you show me that you care about my problem, then we can move on from there. If you don't care about my problem, how am I going to solve it with you? Right. So you listen, you reflect in your own words, you validate, you empathize, LOVE. That's all you do as a listener, and it gets better. And then you'll switch. You'll say, you know what? I take a lot of offense at you not liking my Uncle Frank. My Uncle Frank was so important to me, blah, blah, blah. And now I totally step into your world. And I say, you know what? I can see why that bothers you. We don't have to agree on the reality, whether he is or is not racist, Uncle Frank. We don't have to agree on what we're going to do. Nobody has to apologize for anything. I just have to understand you, and you have to understand me. And once we get there, we are in a much better place to deal with whatever the issue is.
I like
Yeah,
that one too.
part of the reason that we're running out of stuff so fast is because I talk so fast, and I've been working on this. This is my internal work is to get the mouth to move slower because the brain runs real fast, but the mouth to
Yeah, I used to talk really, really fast too, and I had some friends say, "You can talk slower, it's okay.
I
Slow
actually
down, slow
it's so
down."
hard because as I'm saying things, my brain is like 3 steps ahead. I kept
Yeah,
trying to maybe there's some, like, device I can put on my mouth that would just make it, like, harder to move or something, I don't know.
that'd be funny. Oh, goodness. Well, thank you so much for being here today and sharing all these good tips with us.
My
Um,
pleasure.
mm, really
Thanks for having
appreciate your
me.
time.
I hope you'll get something out of it, and if anyone that wants to reach out and need some help, I'm here. You can find me at thecommunicationbook.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Misha.
Mm. If today's episode spoke to your heart, don't forget to follow the podcast so you never miss a new story of healing and hope. Share this episode with someone who needs a reminder that they're not alone because you never know whose life it might change. If you're ready to take the next steps in your own healing journey, I invite you to check out my free quiz to see if you might be in a toxic relationship. It's a powerful first step toward clarity and freedom. You can also schedule a free clarity call with me if you're ready to break chains, release bondages, overcome limited beliefs, and build confidence and self worth. And don't forget to grab a copy of my book, Behind Closed Doors, where I share my own story of surviving domestic abuse, finding healing, and learning to trust God through it all. And thank you for turning in to Silent No Longer.